Hey everyone, today we're ranking all of the post-hit cooldown animations killers do from worst to best. We will be including cosmetic variants too, which will contribute to the killer's rating. Here's our tiers and let's get into it. Sorta Boring is our first tier for the animations that are just really basic or not that cool to look at. Unknown is our new bottom spot with a simple animation where it just sort of adjusts the axe in its hands. I don't have too much to say about it, it's just very underwhelming I think, especially for Unknown. Plague is a standout one too, and it's largely down to her weapon not being a weapon. She has a sensor and so she just adjusts it a bit in her hand. It's fine, it is what it is. Dredge has quite a boring animation despite it being this crazy abomination. It just shakes its meat mass from side to side and brings it up. It's just kinda boring, and the visually interesting part is just down to the weapon looking freaky, and not so much to do with the animation itself. Dredge does also have a secondary animation with his twisted plaything skin. It's better, but it still belongs here for me, just being a simple hand readjustment. Pyramid Head I find similarly underwhelming. Despite him having one of the cooler weapons, it's a bit restricted by its size, and so he just glances down at his blade and moves on with his day. A little dull. Twins do have a fitting animation with them being very practical, and so just having this singular flick down. It does work well for the character, but it does mean it's also sorta boring. Wraith I also find fairly boring because he just gives the tip of his weapon a quick brush. It feels like his weapon has a lot of meaning behind it, and this animation could have used something a bit more related to the weapon itself, maybe shaking it and you hear the spine rattle or something like that. Huntress has a sort of boring animation too, despite her having this huge axe. It is appropriate for her though, as an efficient hunter, to simply wipe her weapon clean with a smooth motion and continue on, but it does look pretty dull. It's Fine is our tier for the fine animations, the ones that I think look pretty solid but maybe lack a bit or don't have anything significant about them. Singularity has a really janky, weird animation that does sort of make sense for Hux, but also just looks very awkward, and it also makes you hesitate sometimes as the player due to how he jerks about. It's not particularly satisfying. Xenomorphs would be in the lowest tier if it weren't saved by its third-person perspective. It looks so dull in first person, but it's saved due to the little roar or mouth open that Xeno does in third. This adds a little layer of cool, but otherwise really dull. Trappers is just fine. It is simple, but it's also quite satisfying despite also being very standard. It's a clean wipe, but it looks very smooth. Pig does a clean double wipe. I sort of wish her cooldown was closer to her ambush cooldown though, where she retracts then reactivates the blade. I feel that would be a bit more fitting and would make good use of the uniqueness of her weapon. This feels a bit dull, but still pretty clean. Sadako has a fine animation with her scrunching her hand up angrily post-hit. I do think it pales a lot though compared to her cool weapon animation. The hand scrunch does add a nice touch though. I do sort of wish there was another symbol though, or some other visual flair to spice it up. Myers has his classic, yes, this knife is made of knife. It's kinda weird why he does this, but it does sort of fit him, with there being an admiration for his blade. I think this could work better if he instead held it closer and inspected his own reflection or something like that. Legion is a slightly better pig for me, with the double wipe feeling a bit more fitting for them. They're messy teenagers who don't really think things through, and so they just casually wipe the blood on their sleeve, eager to continue. It works for them, even if the animation is essentially the same. Krasue does a flick to the side with her blade, and there's a somewhat satisfying janky flick that she does, with her fingers first extending out a bit. It's fairly good, but does feel a bit lacking. I do think more could have been done with this blade, and something a bit more fancy too, something a bit more performative I think. But hey, it's still fine. Springtraps may seem surprising to see here, but I find it just fine. I'm not the biggest fan honestly. It feels sort of ill-fitting to clean the blade with this sort of precision when he's in this bulky suit and the weapon is quite thick. Still a nice and clean animation though, and visually appealing. I just don't feel it fits him too well, or his weapon specifically. Really good is our tier for the solid animations all round, just maybe not the most standout or cool compared to the others. Doctor's has a nice fluidity to it, and you get the impression from this bat bounce that he's feeling very anticipatory for violence. I do like it, nice movement and a bit of story there. Nemesis does sort of a fist clench, and there's another version where he screams out. The fist clench is definitely the cooler and more fitting one though, I think. The scream looks a bit odd. It does look good though and fits him well enough. I think it does look a little forced maybe though, because he's the kind of character who wouldn't really care about cleaning his weapon, so he just stares at his hand. Still looks pretty cool and a bit different, I think. Blight has a pretty fine animation too, being this double flick. It's quite pleasing post-hit, but it doesn't look overly cool. I think it does show off his energy well though. He's got a lot of excess energy he has to shake off after he hits, so I like that. Wesker does a clean knife flick where he drops the knife down and flicks it back up. It looks kinda cool, but I'm not sure how well it fits him really. I feel like he'd be more the type to look at his weapon and chuckle or something, like as he stares at his knife, that kind of thing. But hey, it works and it does still look kinda cool. Ghostface has a nice fluidity to his movement too, with it also being a small nod toward the Scream films, and the way we saw one of the ghosties in Scream clean their weapon. It fits our ghosty well too though, feeling very precise and just being a clean, satisfying motion. There's also something very bold about him seeing just gripping the blade and cleaning it. Artist has really grown on me actually, and this is one I really like now. I really love the fluidity of this one. It really feels like it's a liquid being whipped around, yet retaining its form. It's already such a unique weapon, but this cooldown is very fitting too, the way it changes form so many times. Billy has a really cool animation, and the typical kind I like of a nice clean spin and toss. I also like it as it represents Billy well, and the fun he's having with violence in the trials. There's a carefree nature to this calm hammer toss. Deathslingers may initially appear a little dull, simply wiping away a small spot on the spear gun. However, he's actually wiping a specific part, the nameplate, which reads Death to Bayshore, Bayshore being his old boss. It's a really cool detail and I love that, but the animation is still a little visually lacking in flair for me. Still really cool though. Amazing is our tier for the really great animations that are nearly perfect but maybe lack in a small way. Knight has a clean animation with him wiping off the length of his blade in one sweeping hand motion. I do like it for that, but it's also fairly plain. It makes sense though, he's an efficient and brutal killer who typically wouldn't even bother to wipe it clean like this, so solid. Bubba's is great for its fluidity and brutality. The way he quickly double flicks away the blood. Whenever I play as him, I always want to flick my mouse with him when he does this. There's a real weight behind the swings. Really fitting too. Nurse has a really smooth animation with her dragging her fingertips across the length of the weapon. It also has a very scrapey sound to it. This one feels really fitting for the weapon, being very precise. This is the kind of thing I think works better compared to Springtrap's one, because it's such a thin and precise weapon, and also Nurse is quite an elegant character. Vecna has a smooth animation with his blade rotating back up to float above his palm. It's very smooth and satisfying, and does fit its whole purpose, being this necessity almost to carry a weapon. An afterthought, yet still having an elegance to it. I think it's pretty cool. Maybe more spinning though, next time. Trickster's is one more greatly appreciated in third person. You can see him spinning the bat around his back, juggling it as he does. It's a really cool animation and fits Trickster exceptionally well, with him being a very nimble and quick-handed killer with his blades. I will put him lower though, because it's a shame you don't get to see it really in first person. You just see it sort of spinning in and out of your vision. Oni technically has two, one where he sucks in blood and the other where he flicks his blade to the side. The flick is definitely the better and more fitting one, but the suck is also effective at showing off his power, with his arm twitching slightly as he does it. It works well. The flick is very clean though and quite menacing, knowing the battle prowess of this man especially. Hag's is honestly perfect. She hits the survivor, then drops the blood directly into her mouth in front of them. It's brutal and incredibly fitting for Hag, and looks really scary too. No notes. It's just a shame it requires third person to properly see it. In first person it does look a bit odd, and it looks like she's just dropping the blood onto the ground, so not quite perfect, even though the third person is. Skull Merchant may be surprising to see so high, but we'll get to that. She has a very clean flick to her animation. I do like this one quite a bit, and I do think it's very fitting for her and her desire to hunt. She's less interested in the weapon, cleaning it quickly with a flick, and keeping her eyes focused on her prey. It could benefit from a more mechanical aspect maybe, but I think solid overall. Interestingly though, she has bonus animations too, actually having 3 additional animations unlockable through cosmetics. They're all really amazing honestly too, and sort of fix the issues I have with her base one. They all look so mechanical and fit her so well, it's just a shame her base doesn't quite make it to that perfect tier. perfect is our tier for the animations that are just mwah, flawless. Houndmaster's is cool and shows off her proficiency and years of fighting with her flipping around this blade with ease. It's a cool animation with it being really fluid and nice. Dracula's is another banger, although it may initially appear a little basic. It fits him so well with him feeling superior to the survivors and just wanting anything of them off of him with him flicking his claws away. There could be an element with the blood maybe though and some sort of interaction, but I don't think this is a necessity. It has to be short at the end of the day. I also noticed, and this is what makes it perfect for me, that his animation goes on for even longer than what it initially appears as, with him even doing this little finger pinch thing afterwards too. It's really cool. It's not part of the locked animation, but it does seem to be a follow-up that always plays, which is really awesome. Demos is quite hard to see from the first person, but it looks really good and fits demo well. And honestly, even in first, it still looks amazing. It does a standard swing, and likely not realizing why the entity has told it to wait a moment before continuing its hunt, it simply screams in anger at the survivor, screeching with arms outstretched. It's perfect. Pinhead has a really good looking animation with the mini portal appearing and the chain flipping side to side and back into it. It's very visually appealing and fitting for Pinhead as a Cenobite. Perfect. I also just love, by the way, how he holds his hands out to the side, displaying his power and drip. Kaneki I just think is perfect. He does have a few, and some are admittedly a bit boring, where he just whips with his kagune or he wipes his mouth, but then there's that one animation where he cracks his finger back and it's just redeemed perfect. This being something he does in the series, and a trait he took on from Jason, his captor. It's amazing. Spirit has a nice animation too that feels very fitting also, really making use of the blade's length, but also the story behind it, with it showing off each shattered piece, extending out then retracting. Really awesome. Chucky has a few different animations too. He has one where he laughs and leans back, another where he flips the survivor off, and so on. It's cool that there's a bit of variety to all of them, and they're all really fitting for Chucky's oversized ego yet tiny appearance. Him leaning back and maniacally laughing is perfect and fits him so well. Freddy! Something Freddy is good at, wow. His animation is cool, the way he fans his glove open and looks through the claws. There's a real unique look to this one, with each finger moving separately. Feels very fluid and really fitting with Freddy's taunting persona. Clown. Ah, clown. Nothing beats the good old clown spin. There's just such a nice fluidity to this spinning movement that's really cool to watch, and timeless. It's also a little window of lore into Clown himself. Despite this lumbering, indulgent man, he does have these suspiciously quick fingers and a level of precision we may have not otherwise seen. It's very well done. Alright, well, that's gonna do it. Be sure to drop your own thoughts down below. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.